Good evening from Earthquake Stadium here on Black and Azul, episode 57. Charles Wollin, Joel Soria, Alex Morgan, Jamon Moore, the full panel with you tonight. The Quakes lose here 6-1, and it is not the first lopsided scoreline in recent memory for this Earthquakes team. They have not won since the MLS is back tournament. They've picked up only 3 points out of a possible 21 points since MLS is back, and this is their third lopsided loss here. And I've got the rest of the team to break it all down. I'll start with Joel Soria.
Good evening, Charles, Jamon, Alex, and everyone tuning in. Pain all around Earthquake Stadium. Just actually happened to see Chris Wondolowski kind of just trotting the sideline, looking down, almost pulling his shirt off his chest, visibly frustrated after another lopsided defeat for the San Jose Earthquakes. This is pain. As I mentioned, pain all around, and specifically for the Quakes internal captain, who I'm sure, as all you fans, is getting tired of this new routine for the Quakes.
Alex Morgan.
Show about the San Jose Earthquakes, but I think tonight's game was all about Portland and how they asserted themselves. They've been on a pretty bad slide recently, losing to the Galaxy, LAFC, the Sounders, but they reversed that trend tonight. Diego Valeri, Jeremy Abobasi, Diego Chara returned to the starting lineup for Portland, and they're one of the most prolific trios in MLS. And they were just too much for the Quakes to handle. They had 3 goals, 2 assists between them, and they made it 6-1. That's San Jose's worst ever defeat at Earthquake Stadium. I don't think it was as bad as their 7-1 loss to Seattle. Seattle scored many of those goals in the first half. This was more of a slow drift. Portland scored a couple goals right at the very end there, but it's not a good look for Matias Almeida and his team.
Jamon Moore, where do you see this going? Another lopsided loss for this team here. We saw it a few weeks ago in Seattle. We saw it against LAFC, and now we see it here at home at Earthquake Stadium. The cars were honking, the horns were going off. People seem to be fired up. Carlitos Fierro had a little bit of a leg back into this game for this side, but just not another good night for this Earthquakes team.
Right. So Almeida tried some different things defensively because of the missing center backs. And for the most part, they were working early in the game. The goals didn't come because of the defensive issues. They came because of the penalty. They came off of a corner kick. And that's what got the Quakes, having to play from behind. And that created other cascading problems throughout the match. Once they got down from a double deflection, 3-1, Almeida decided to go with the 4-player substitution. That didn't really work, took Flo Youngworth off the field, and then the floodgates busted open, on a patchwork back line. So there were a lot of issues to talk about tonight.
If you're just tuning into our broadcast, we're going to bring you Matias Almeida's press conference live, as well as some players that will appear in the press conference. So we'll bring that to you live. Keep commenting, keep chatting. It's 8 straight games without a win for Matias Almeida's Quakes team. And I'm going to come back quickly to you, Joel Soria, and you just had mentioned at the final whistle. The introduction of Cade Cowell and breakthrough of Marco Lopez is as positive as 2020 gets for this Earthquakes team. Care to clarify and talk about that? We did discuss a little bit before you tweeted that out, but would love to hear a little bit more your comments on that.
Well, what else is there, right? What else is there with this team? There's not a lot of creativity. They're in dire need of a number 10. They sell Magnus. They don't have an instant replacement. You start tonight's game with both of your DPs on the bench. Yes, I understand rotations. Yes, I understand that the schedule has been very tight and very demanding. But I personally think that the front office has decided to scratch off 2020 completely. At least that's what they're showing on the field. They're not going out there to compete. They're not going out there to win. If anything, I mean, as I mentioned before, if they had some decency, the players would go out there and not try to get humiliated as they've been doing time and time again here at home in their own home field. I mean, this is just getting out of hand. I think it's already been out of hand, but it continues to get more and more out of hand. They continue to surprise us. It's it's quite baffling at this point, I would say.
Joel, I don't think this team is intentionally tanking, but I think it's just working that way by default because they're not able to get results. The squad is so thin. And I actually think that Matias Almeida tried a new tactical look to get the result tonight. I'll give him credit for that. We saw a back three, basically, with Florian Youngworth, Judson, and Tanner Beeson. Because of the injuries to Alanisa, Kanyarich, and Kasia, the Quakes had really limited options at center back. So they've had to go with Flo and Beeson. But to cover for them, Almeida played Judson in basically the role of a sweeper. He was sitting like 5 or 6 meters behind Flo and Beeson and sweeping up all of the loose balls. Beeson was marking Abobasi and Flo was marking Valeri. And in the end, they were just outmatched. But I thought that was a positive for the Quakes, that Almeida was adapting his system to try to get a result tonight.
Sounds like Matias Almeida is about to speak here, and we'll get that to you just as soon as that comes up and is live here. Jamon Moore, back to you, and talking about shape that Alex Morgan just referred to. And I was just sitting next to you guys, obviously, for this game, and we were talking about how Judson would drop back there, and then there were only the two healthy center backs available. How much did Judson's role change, in order to play in that position? And do you think Matias Almeida got his cards right in putting him back there? Could have been worse if he wasn't potentially back there. What did you think of that kind of makeshift back three?
Well, we saw a little bit of a preview with this in the previous game, where we saw in the first half when Alanis and Jacob were paired together, we saw Flo Youngworth kind of doing something very similar for part of that time, and Jacob was able to get forward. The whole point seems to be to prevent Jacob from being like the last person in case defensively things break down and there's a counterattack. I think that's kind of the purpose of having Judson back there. If your fastest man is behind everybody else, if you're afraid that the Timbers are going to counterattack you, this is a logical way to try to prevent that. The problem is when you tend to play deeper, you give teams the ability to play the ball in front of you. And when teams are playing with the ball in front of you, that's usually bad for your defense. You're not really able to compress space. In the man marking system, things get pulled apart. Your players are playing deeper. That gives a lot of space for someone like a Diego Valeri to operate. And quite frankly, there's just too much quality on that Portland team with Jeremy Abobasi, Diego Valeri, and some of the other players that they've got. And the Quakes were just outmatched. From a size perspective, Tanner Beeson was the biggest player on the field. I think he's 6 foot, and other than Vega. So from a size-wise, they were just completely overmatched from the opening whistle.
We talked about attacking pieces in the pregame show, Joel, and we were talking about Andy Rios and Carlitos Fierro and Shea Salinas in that front three compared to what Jamon just talked about. How much do the Quakes front line kind of need to grow or grow up in order to have a caliber front line attacking trio such as the Portland Timbers? And where did you see it kind of go wrong in the attacking phases of the game for the Quakes tonight?
Well, I think that the Quakes need to find consistency. They need to find consistency all across the field. I'm sure that they're not going to find it in 2020 because, as Almeida has mentioned, 2020 is more of an experiment year for him. He's going to try and field players 1 through 30. He's going to try out the youngsters, blindsiding youngsters with debuts like Jacob, who confessed to the Quakes that he wasn't expecting to get the start last game. Look, I think that the Quakes have a couple of integral pieces in the front line. You have Cristian Espinosa, who is the out-and-out starter on the right flank. Andy Rios obviously has been a big question mark, has fallen short from what a player that makes $700,000 should be producing on the field. And you have players like Shea Salinas who are on the outside looking in, Carlos Fierro on the outside looking in. And there's no continuity. There's no solidity in that front three. I think they need to really trim the three down to who they want to field game in and game out, and then you go from there. Tonight, I thought that the first 20 minutes, I thought the Quakes actually came out looking pretty solid. They were cohesive. They looked confident and poised. and we're actually willing to bite on the final third. And obviously there's thin margins. You can't waste golden opportunities. They wasted a couple. Carlos Fierro was very close a couple of instances. Finally gets his goal, obviously well deserved. But you have moments where you just think to yourself, man, Rios needs to bury that header. Man, Flo, even though he's not an attacker, he comes into the box. He's got to finish that chance. The Quakes are inconsistent, and they're also ineffective in clear scoring situations. You can't make it that far that way.
I actually think that, look, there are a lot of attacking options that Matias Almeida has up front. It's sort of a puzzle. And I think that puzzle got one step harder, even more complex for Matias Almeida tonight, because I was prepared to write Carlos Fierro off. He arrived here at San Jose at this time last year, and he hadn't scored a goal yet. Tonight, he scored his first Major League Soccer goal, and I actually thought he played well. That was a very clean finish. The Quakes have had a lot of balls, a lot of service into the box recently, but they haven't had somebody who's finishing those crosses. Fierro had a really clean finish from Marcos Lopez's cross. And he also had a couple other dangerous chances. So I think this was definitely his strongest performance in the Quakes jersey. And I think that he showed a lot of promise tonight that he might be able to make a resurgence and assert himself into this team for next season.
Let's talk about the set pieces. Let's talk about the penalty. And the set pieces that led to the third goal. And then there was a goal off of a corner. And then, of course, there was the penalty in the beginning. I mean, this stuff seems to be, again, a consistent, familiar theme for this team. And obviously, I'm sure they're working on it in training. But tonight, you get hit on a set piece off of a corner. You get hit on a penalty as well. You get hit on a goal after a set piece within 30 seconds of that set piece, not being successful. So, Jamon Moore, back to you again. What's up with this?
I wish I knew. The comment came to me. It looked like the Quakes were zonal marking on the goal to Abobasi, which is not something that they would typically do, although they do try to cover posts with different players. And, it kind of just looked like everyone was standing around because they couldn't stop Abobasi from jumping over them and heading it down. I think there's a question as to whether Vega could have come out and punched that, or maybe could have given at least, a courtesy dive in that situation. But for the most part, this is part of the physical matching that we talked about earlier. They just weren't set up to be able to stop a player like Abobasi any more than they were able to stop Akai Kamara a couple games ago. It's just not a good matchup for the Quakes with the size that they have on the field and the type of players that they have. They don't have that person who can really muscle out and body up with someone like Abobasi and be able to win in that situation. Obviously, the penalty, I think it was obviously deserved. I think Shea did the best he could to try to not have his arm in a bad situation there, but it was certainly not something that VAR was going to overturn. And there was a bit. He had the double deflection. There was a bit of bad luck tonight, to be fair. But then once they made the substitution for the four players, the floodgates kind of opened from there.
I actually think that it's just purely an issue of size, Jamon. The Quakes are a really short team. Tonight, Tanner Beeson was the only outfielder on the field for the Quakes who was taller than 6 foot. And Jeremy Abobasi just towered over them. That was a towering header. I know that Portland had another headed goal later in the game. And I just think the Quakes are lacking size. I think one of the characteristics they need of their offseason signings are to bring in more size, taller players. You look at Portland's front line. Diego Valeri's big, physically imposing. Jeremy Abobasi isn't small. I just think the Quakes are too small front line to back line.
Yeah, at the end of the game, we did see Chris Wondolowski on the sidelines and kind of just mumbling to himself and obviously in quite a bit of frustration. And we saw his body language, and it wasn't in the best way. And this is a guy that's, in love with this team. His heart is here in San Jose, and he always puts this team on his back. Joel, we were just chatting about that right before we were about to go on air. Literally 30 seconds before we were about to go on air. I think we have your picture that you took of it, especially in his last year. For Chris Wondolowski, this could be his last year. And there you see the eternal captain, the number 8, right there on the sideline, very much socially distant from everybody. But what did you see from that moment in his behavior, his mannerisms, his body language, that we could see from our position there, Joel? I think you're muted.
The epitome of frustration, the epitome of being let down by an institution that you're head over heels for. I don't think that there is a player in MLS that has gone through this type of roller coaster and has, decided to be on the entire ride over and over and over and over again, like Chris has here in San Jose. I mean, you talk about experiencing it all, starting from nothing, making a career literally on sacrifice, having some high moments and then having some severe low moments when Jesse Fioranelli came on board and decided to fire Dom Kinnear after a win against RSL, and going through that restructure period, going with Miguel Starry, having that 2018 year, having Ralston as a coach, having Chris Leach as a coach, and starting a new venture, a new project with Matias, and experiencing more of the same that he has been experiencing for the last 4 or 5 years, and what I would say have been his best years as a professional. This is not the way for things to end for Chris. We don't know yet if he's actually going to be coming back for the 2021 season, but he's visibly upset. Obviously, I've seen him before in that state of mind. I've seen those mannerisms before, and you just have to feel for him because he's obviously given it all for this team, and he's been quiet. Obviously, it's not a laudable thing to be a captain of the team, be the face of the team, and speak badly of it. But I'm sure he has plenty of criticism to give about his own team, but he decides to keep it behind closed doors, as he should. But you just got to feel for a player like Wondolowski. He just doesn't deserve any of this.
Yeah, he puts his heart out there every single time, and it doesn't just show. I mean, it's all over the field, his love for this team and what he brings. A couple comments here. Joshua Marakeen says, our season is over, in my opinion. Mark McCarran Frazier says, what Quakes game is fun? Rashid Yusufi says, this is just embarrassing. John Manny also says, embarrassing. And Oliver Hart says, imagine having to be a player on this team. Going back down the line here to the rest of my colleagues, and what Joel just mentioned about Chris Wondolowski in a wonderful kind of poetic prose way of chatting about Chris Wondolowski, because that's what he is. That's what he means to this team. And that's what your guys' comments reflect about Wondo. Back to you, Alex Morgan, on Wondo, his significance, his body language tonight, and some of the comments that are coming in here from the fans.
Look, Charles, this Earthquakes organization doesn't deserve Chris Wondolowski. He is, in my opinion, the best MLS striker in MLS history, the all-time top goal scorer. And he's just the most loyal player and the eternal captain for this team. There's no better way to put it. And he deserves an organization that will spend. He deserves an organization that will put in the resources, an ownership and a management team that will put in the resources to make the Quakes a contender in Major League Soccer. He deserves a team that has higher expectations than this Quakes team. You look at a team like Atlanta United. They're tied on points with the Quakes right now. They just lost 2-1 to Inter Miami tonight. And their fans are going crazy. Darren Eales, the president, is being put under tons of pressure because that is an organization that has high standards. That's an organization that expects to win every year. And when they don't win, they're going to fire their coach. They're going to overhaul their management, and they're going to, buy new players and spend money to make it a better team. But that's just not something that the Earthquakes are doing right now.
What ambitious team in MLS? I mean, ambitious teams in MLS would die to build around Chris. They would die to get a shot to have a number 8 like him, number 8 obviously in the back of his shirt, but a number 9 of his quality on their team. I mean, this is a generational talent that the Quakes have completely wasted. You build a champion caliber roster around this type of player, and you can actually reach the summit of the competition with a player like this. You know, the Quakes could have done amazing things with Chris, and unfortunately, they decided to do this. It's a shame, but that is reality, and that's the history.
Yeah, if this is how the story for probably the greatest goal scorer, obviously in MLS history, ends, is in an empty stadium losing 6-1 to the Portland Timbers, it's a very sad ending indeed. He deserves far better. He deserves to go out with fans in the stands and with all the accolades that are due to him. And while we all hope that he's going to stay another year, you have to wonder if he looks at Matthias's 4-year project and says that this is one that he wants to continue to be a part of, or is he better off to take a step back and to find a different role in the organization in the meantime? You know, I would hope that Chris would opt for a better ending, and we'll just have to wait and see how he decides he's gonna go. If we have a chance to talk to him tonight, certainly we will try to see where his mind's at.
I've said it all along. Chris gets to decide when and where he retires. I mean, he can have a charity match here with his best friends, play 90 minutes and call it a career. He can go out on the road. He gets to write. He gets to decide how his ending goes. I really hope that it doesn't come to an end in 2020, because this isn't looking good for the Quakes, obviously. I don't think it's going to get any better unless they bring a couple of signings. And who knows if those signings would be able to adjust to the style of play. Who knows if they would be coming with the rhythm needed, to play Almeida style 90 minutes, or if they would even make the difference to begin with. But Wondolowski has every right to call for an extension if he wishes that that's best for him, or to retire in 2020 in an exhibition match or in a farewell match. It shouldn't be up to the Quakes front office. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see how the story ends.
If you're just tuning in to our broadcast, we are Black and Azul. We provide pre- and post-game analysis for the San Jose Earthquakes, as well as we do some weekly shows as well. But with the games few and fast between, we are doing shows pre- and post matches. My name is Charles Wollin. You just heard from Joel Soria, Alex Morgan, Jamon Moore with us as well on the team here. If you haven't had the chance to subscribe or like, would love to see some new subscribers tonight. Tell a couple of friends. We are going to bring you Matias Almeida's press conference as soon as he goes live. And I'm just getting some word that it should be very, very soon. And then we'll hear from a couple of players. That's kind of how our post-game show works, and we'll chat and analyze and hear from everyone, and we'll talk about the comments made tonight from the players. Obviously, I think a lot of people are very anxious to hear from Matias Almeida and from the players tonight. I'm seeing some comments coming in here from our section talking about what kinds of questions we're going to be able to ask. Our team here does ask those questions live and on our show, so that's kind of a nice thing that we're able to do as well in episode number 57 this evening. Again, so much of a theme, these results for this Earthquakes team. And this Earthquakes team had a good run at the MLS's back tournament. And we talked about how that form is kind of out the window. But they did have 2 draws back-to-back against the Galaxy and then against Portland. And they had Portland here again tonight, a chance to maybe pick up 3 points based on the couple games before. Jamon Moore, coming back to you, is there a chance that the Quakes can even get to that kind of form again? Maybe create a little bit of momentum? Because it seems like they're on the low of lows, and then they're on the high of highs, or they're on the low of lows, they're high of highs. We saw it in the summer last year, about a year ago, the high of highs, then the low of lows coming into the fall. And when the season started, we didn't really know where they were. And then MLS is back, high of highs. And now, back to low of lows. So is there a chance that momentum can come with the games coming up? There's only about 10 games left.
I'd like to say that because of what they were able to do at MLS's back, that there's a chance that they can kind of regain what they had there. The answer is I don't think that that's realistic, to be fully honest about it. The main reason around that is because of the pace of these games. And we see this really with about every team right now. Portland even entered this game with about 7 injuries. The Quakes entered this game with 6 injuries. This is very difficult, very grueling on the players. It's difficult to practice in, particularly when the air quality has been bad for much of the past 2-3 weeks. They're having irregular practice schedules. They basically play a game, take a day off, and come back, practice, and then play again. Almeida says that instead of working in practice, we are instead working off of chalkboards. It's a very different type of environment. It's from that perspective, it would be easy to kind of set the season aside and go, look, they are going to do this experiment. Let's see how some of these guys do. Tonight, Jack Scahan stepped on the field. He was actually on the injury report, listed as out, and actually was in the 20 and able to play tonight. That's a good thing. We've heard some exciting things about Jack Scahan. We're seeing the development of Marcos Lopez. Tonight we saw maybe a step forward from Carlos Piero. So there are some things that are happening. My guess is when we talk to Almeida tonight, he's going to ask for patience for his project, that there are steps being made that we're not going to see, and that he wants to be able to evaluate the players through the rest of the season and take it into the off season. If this was a different sport, you kind of would say, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy this for trying to evaluate what we have and see what I think we can be in the future. We are seeing a lot of situations in MLS now where 1 or 2 players makes a big difference. You take Joseph Martinez out of Atlanta United, and they're near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. You make a couple changes to the back line of LAFC and the goalkeeper, all of a sudden LAFC is even a below average team right now. We can see what the difference of 1 to 2 players can be. The Quakes need to make those 1 or 2 players turn into a huge positive so that they can move forward for next year. If we have the opportunity to get an answer from Jesse Fioranelli on any moves he's going to make this season, we certainly will try to relay that information if that's a question that we can get an answer to. He had told the Mercury, as everyone knows, that he was going to make 1 or 2 moves. There's still plenty of time to make those moves. I'm just at this point thinking there's not enough time to integrate those players to make any sort of difference in this season.
I think
Go ahead, Joel.
I think any other fan base in MLS would be able to endure the type of season that the Quakes are having, Jamon. But the reality here is that the Quakes fan base has been suffering for far too long. They have been confiscated from glory for far too long. 8 straight wins without a win. Yes, maybe they can find some sort of form in the next couple of games and make their way towards that 8th place in the West. But the Quakes have thinned out patience on everyone. There's not a cushion there to work with. The Quakes haven't made, obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here, but haven't made playoffs since 2017. And when they made playoffs, they got 5 goals drilled on them by the Whitecaps. And, Almeida's probably going to come out and say, we haven't been able to train properly. The schedule is too tight. You can't perform your best under these circumstances. We had a lot of injuries, right? These are all valid excuses, but every other team in the league has had their obstacles as well, and they've been able to overcome them and win games. I mean, look, for example, Sporting Kansas City, they comparatively have worked with the same budget that the Quakes have worked with. Last year, they had one of their worst seasons ever. What did the owner do? He went public. He spoke to the Kansas City Star. He said, I'm going to double down this offseason. I'm going to invest because I'm noticing that the team is starting to slip from the pack, right? Where's Sporting Kansas City right now on the table? You guys can tell me. They're second in the West. They're about a point or two away from the top. And the team is, it's almost like the sister club of the San Jose Earthquakes in the way. Shoestrings in a way. They have facilities. They have a new stadium. But they never went out there and bought the players that the Sounders or LAFCs or the Galaxies of the world were getting. But they changed their methodology at the very top. And we can see what can happen here. Now, the Quakes haven't spent, but they also haven't spent wisely, right? So it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword here. And if you don't change your ways, this team is not going to have a future regardless of whether you're experimenting or you're actually trying to compete.
I agree, Joel. I don't think there's any way back for the San Jose Earthquakes this season. Look, this is exactly what happened last year. Last year, they started poorly, then they had a really strong run in the summer, and then they tailed off at the end of the year because it's hard to sustain Matias Almeida's man-marking style for a whole season, for 90 minutes every game for a whole season, let alone when the games are back-to-back like this, when you're playing every 3 days, right? And I think there's a comment here from Andy Thomas that asks, do you think our bad form could have scared off any potential signings? This is my biggest worry. My biggest worry about the inconsistency of this Quakes team that Charles was talking about the high of highs and the lows of lows, the fact that they're losing games 6-1, 7-1. It's not sustainable because players, potential recruits will look at a team losing 6-1 and 7-1, and they won't want to join that team. When everybody knows that the Quakes are tanking this year, when nobody wants to be a part of a team that is losing this badly and has so consistently performed poorly over the course of the last 6, 7, 8 years. Even with Matias Almeida, one of the biggest promises that he was bringing to the Quakes was the ability to sign good players from South America and use his connections to bring top talent into this team. I think that allure might have worn off at this point because I think people are going to look at this and realize that this is a failing project at this stage.
Alex, Jamon, Charles, was MLS's back a high of highs for the San Jose Earthquakes, though? Look at the results. Let's not lie to ourselves here. They pulled off a 4-3 victory against the Whitecaps last minute. Heroics from Shea Salinas there. They beat Chicago Fire 2-0. Chicago Fire, as we know it, aren't a heavy hitter in the East. And then they they beat RSL 5-2, but let's not forget that RSL was at some point was playing with 9 men on the field.
Yeah, and when I mentioned high highs, I think it was as far as probably this Earthquakes team could have gotten in MLS's back. And I remember previewing it with you lads and saying, a nice quarter final run would be nice. A nice semifinal run would have been nice. The quarterfinal run was probably their ceiling. We talked a little bit about it after they got bounced out by that Minnesota squad, and that game wasn't even close. And yeah, of course, the Whitecaps game could have gone another way. And of course, the Seattle game, the 0-0 on the opener, Seattle could have won that game. they had chances. Rui Diaz was in through on goal a couple of times. But I do think, yeah, obviously, and I saw a comment in there earlier where it said that there was some more time to train. Yes, the Quakes did get there earlier. Yes, they kind of hyped themselves up and were able to dig deep and find that. And that's kind of where I was posing that question, where it was, since they are now in the low of the lows, how do they find something to kind of bring them back up to a level where they're competitive at least, and can challenge for that playoff spot? And Joel, you've always said that 7th, 8th spot for them is always a spot where they can be competitive. But are they really competitive right now to be able to still go for that spot after a result like tonight and some of the recent results?
No, they need an extra push from players who currently don't wear the black and blue day in and day out. They don't have it within them right now to get out of this mess. They continue to demonstrate it. The players do. Matias's tactics at some times have fallen short as well. We've said that. He messed up when the Quakes traveled to Seattle and they lost in that way. And tonight as well. I mean, tonight there was some luck not really working for the Quakes. They were a bit unlucky. And, hats off to Portland, as Alex mentioned earlier. Hats off to Portland. They're a fantastic team. There's a reason why that team that played tonight won MLS's back not too long ago. Tonight they decided to field an A side with Diego Valeri, with Abobasi, with Imi Charra, Villafana. They made the difference. And this is keep in mind, this is a Timbers team without Sebastian Blanco, who, in my opinion, was the league's MVP until he went out with that injury. You can only imagine how tonight would have gone if Blanco was on the field. These are the difference makers that the Quakes are in dire need of. And until they get them, the Quakes won't have a solid chance at getting themselves out of that hole that they're in.
Rashid Yusufi writes, where's Almeida? We are waiting on Matias Almeida. Apparently, he is still addressing the team, or is just finishing up addressing the team. We just got an update from a Quakes spokesperson. So we should have Matias Almeida's press conference for you live, as well as probably 2 players. That has been the norm post-game here on Black and Azul episode number 57. Jamon, back to you at the end of the line. We've been analyzing this. We've been processing this. We're seeing all of the comments come in here. Anything else to add from what Joel was talking about trying to be competitive or try to dig in to see if they can even create any momentum to try and maybe eke up the table a few notches to be competitive for one of those spots?
Yeah, adding on to what Joel said and adding on to also what Alex said. Alex also mentioned, the potential difficulty in getting players to believe in Matias Almeida at this point, given the problems of the Quakes. Will they be able to attract those players? What South American players and Central American players, Mexican players understand about MLS is it's not a dynasty league. Any team can make some changes to step up and win a championship in MLS. And that's one of the reasons I think we're all fans of this particular league. So that's what the reputation of MLS is to all these other players. And we're going to be heading over to the podium here soon. It looks like instead of Matias Almeida right now, it's going to be Jesse Fioranelli who is going to address us. So
that is huge news, Jim, and we just got that text from Quakes spokesperson. Apparently, the Matias Almeida does not feel well, is what the Quakes spokesperson is saying. But we have to wonder if there are larger changes here as well.
Here is Jesse Fioranelli, the general manager of the San Jose Earthquakes, in place
Hey, Jesse, can you hear me?
Matias Almeida.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for being with us this evening. We are joined by General Manager Jesse Fioranelli. So we can go ahead and jump right into questions. Let's start with Alicia Rodriguez.
Hi, thank you. Jesse, it's been a tough stretch for the Earthquakes. Obviously, haven't won since the local return to play. Several of the games have been pretty lopsided losses, including tonight's. What's the plan moving forward, and what's the, what does the team need to do in order to kind of get back on track? Because they're still not really out of the playoff chase at this point.
Well, before we look forward, I just wanted to spend 2 words and explain also why Matthias is not here. He has a terrible headache, and I just wanted to step in. Before we look forward to the future, we have to give a hard look at ourselves. Today was a very painful loss, and we apologize. I apologize for the way we performed today. This is not who we are. We know we can do better. We had a long conversation with the players. But rather than speaking much today, it's going to have to be tomorrow, after we have analyzed the game carefully, that we will come to more in-depth conclusions about what went wrong and how we have to correct the path. So I don't want to jump to any conclusions tonight, other than expressing an apology to the fans, the sponsors, and to the club in general, because this is not who we are.
Thank you, Jesse. Let's go to Alex Morgan.
Hi, Jesse. This is Alex Morgan from Quakes Talk and Black and Azul here. You mentioned in an interview with Elliot Allman from the San Jose Mercury News that you guys are going to sign 1 or 2 players over the summer transfer window. Do you have any updates on those potential signings, and what kind of reinforcements do you think this team needs to become competitive?
I wish I could spend maybe a little bit more time with you guys to explain where we are. At this point in time, we just lost at home 6-1. And there are things that we want to and will correct heading into the next game. We've had several conversations and talks with regards to potential signings, but now is not the time to speculate about which players we're going to sign. We have to check ourselves properly, correct things, and we have to stick together as one.
Thank you, Jesse. Let's take a few more. Jamon Moore.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for taking the time and stepping in for Matthias tonight. Obviously, this fan base has been through quite a lot. I know you understand that. What would you tell them in terms of, you have a 4-year project with Matthias Almeida. We're at this kind of low point, let's say, in year 2. How do we look ahead to the rest of the season? What hope can you give the fan base in terms of how the team is going to move forward from this particular point? If you're speaking to the fans, what is it that you would want them to know about this project and how you guys are looking to fix it?
Well, right now it's a very difficult moment. I admit that we are very upset about the recent performances. We had a very different face we presented when we were in Orlando. There were different circumstances, and it's not supposed to be an excuse. We are where we are right now, and we know that we have to correct things. I can assure you, based on what the work, the effort, and also the commitment has been of the entire first team, that I have no doubt that in these last 11 games, we're going to present ourselves in a different way. And we will keep strengthening this team. From the coaching staff, from players, we'll have to have some deeper discussions. But one thing is for sure, this is not who we are, and we will make sure that we will correct the course.
Thank you, Jesse. Let's take 2 more questions, please. We'll go to Carlos Ramirez.
Hi, Jesse. Good night. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Carlos Ramirez from Telemundo and NBC Bay Area. How do you see the team improving with conditions that the team doesn't control? Schedule being so tight, not having enough time to practice, to recover, to heal, things that like fires that just you don't have any sort of control over it, and it does have an impact on what happened on the pitch. I mean, how do you see this team going forward and improving with the next 11 games with such certainty, given that the conditions won't change that much? Thank you.
You know, you were mentioning external factors that are certainly affecting everyone. You're at the earthquakes in soccer, in everyday life. It's a very different football that we're living right now, whether it's training conditions, whether it is also the condensed schedule. We've had also other disruptions with air quality. When our team in Orlando was focused day in and day out on football, 14 days straight, without having full team training prior to the tournament, we were able to express ourselves differently. But that's no excuse why you lose 6-1 today. And this is certainly not on the coach. One thing that I can say is that we will have to make certain decisions as to how we want to move forward as a roster. And for that reason, I don't want to jump to any conclusions. I just want to make sure that we analyze it carefully, give ourselves the time, and we're going to have to do this together.
Thank you, Jesse. One last question from Joel Soria.
Good evening, Jesse. Good evening, Jesse. Good evening, Jesse. I wish I had a different setting to ask you this question. I know how much you know about the game. I know how much you love the game. From your vantage point, what's going wrong on the field? I mean, we're talking about 8 straight games without a win, a 5-1 defeat against LAFC, a 7-1 defeat in Seattle, and now a 6-1 loss at home. Thank you.
It's certainly not good enough. And I'm not going to now want to go into more depth as to what the conclusions will be and how we will correct the course, because that's going to have to be a collective effort. Today is a day where, especially during this period of time, you're exposed. When you lose 6-1, you're alone. So what I said to the team is, whether it is the coach, whether it is the GM, whether it is the player himself, tonight we're going to spend that night alone. Tomorrow, we're going to get our act together and we're going to start to commit to coming back as a group. And I'm positive that we have it inside of us, because I've seen too much good inside of this locker room. And there's more quality than what we expressed so far. Much more. But we will have to continue to support each other, and we will have to strengthen the team. But before we get to those conclusions, it's time to analyze ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse, for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
There you heard the comments of Jesse Fioranelli. Obviously, quite emotional tonight. You could kind of see it in his face. You could see it in his body language. He said, it's really not good enough. I don't know what the conclusions will be. Today is the day that you're exposed. you're alone, whether it is the coach, the GM, the players themselves. Tomorrow we're going to act together. We will commit to coming back as a group. I've seen too much good inside this locker room. Asked about signings, asked about potential players, asked about all of the results together. He said one thing he can say, he'll have to make certain decisions on how he'll move forward as a roster. He's going to analyze this carefully, and this will give him some time. He was asked about the conditions, about COVID, and about the fires in the area. He said external factors are affecting everyone: training conditions, condensed schedule, distractions with air quality. When we were focused on football in Orlando, we presented a different face. He said, right now it's a difficult moment. I admit we're very upset about the recent performances. We had a very different face in Orlando. We are where we are right now, and we have to correct things. I have no doubt we'll present ourselves in a different way in the next 10 matches. He said he wanted to apologize to the fans, the sponsors, the club in general, because this is not who we are. He said today was a very painful loss. I apologize with the way we performed today. And so that was Jesse Fioranelli. Some kind of similar themes of what he had to say, but a solemn Jesse Fioranelli, a sad Jesse Fioranelli, a frank Jesse Fioranelli, and an honest Jesse Fioranelli from what we heard. Joel, your thoughts on his comments?
Well, look, there's so much to process there. So much was said. You have to, in a way, applaud Jesse for showing up and for addressing all of the doubt that fans and even us media have had about the team in a way. Didn't want to reveal too many of his cards, obviously. Didn't want to speak too much about the future, nor did he want to critically assess his team. To me, what seems really mysterious is that Matias Almeida was not present at the press conference due to a quote-unquote headache. We're going to have to monitor the situation closely because, man, that seems like an excuse that is just
this
not.
is
it's not a
highly
routine
unusual, one. Joel. I've been covering this team for 6 years. This is the first time that the general manager has spoken at a post-match press conference. At one point last year, Matias Almeida didn't speak. I think he was addressing his players at that game, and he had one of his assistant coaches speak to us. But this is so incredibly unusual. It makes me wonder whether there are behind-the-scenes rumblings. We know that Matias Almeida was addressing his team for a long time, but the fact that he wasn't there at the press conference, which is a violation of MLS media access rules, the fact that Jesse was the one there makes me wonder if there's something going on behind the scenes. We are here at Quakes Stadium, so we will provide you guys with any updates if we hear anything. Who is going in and out of the locker room, who's leaving the stadium, who's staying late here at night. But that was incredibly, highly unusual. And another thing that's unusual is that we will not be speaking to any players tonight. That's another violation of MLS media access rules. The Quakes spokesperson ended that press conference, not making any players available to us to speak to. So you have to wonder what's happening in that locker room right now.
Jamon Moore, again, good evening to you on the end here of our row. What you make of that press conference there from Jesse Fioranelli? The fact that Almeida has a headache, and the fact that there are not going to be any players to speak with the media. What did you think of his comments and his demeanor?
So first off, let's give some credit to Jesse Fioranelli for facing the media tonight and to our fan base, right? Because I think they understand Black and Azul is running. There's a lot of fans who do come and join for the press conference. And I think he understood that he was not just addressing us, he was addressing the fan base. So let's give him some credit for that. I've always found Jesse to be a very personable person. If you've never gotten to see him speak before, I think you understand that he has this warmth. He does have this charisma, and he has this kind of honesty that I find refreshing for a general manager in this league.
That doesn't bring you wins, Jamon.
I understand, but let me finish here, Joel. Obviously, we have to consider what's going on with Matias Almeida. If he isn't feeling well, then we hope he feels better. But if there are deeper lying things, then hopefully we're going to get a roadmap here from Jesse Fioranelli as to how this organization is going to progress forward. Yes, he didn't talk about the players that he may be bringing in and other things. And I think there's probably some protection of the players tonight from the questions that they would probably get asked by us. I don't think we've come here angry. I think we've come here to try to dissect. But maybe they don't know that, and they're looking to protect the players a bit, even if it is against media access policy. But again, kudos to Jesse for facing us, and I'm actually pretty happy that we got to hear from him tonight, because that is something that we've been wanting. I think the fan base has been wanting us to hear from Jesse.
Here's the thing, Joel. Jesse didn't really provide, Jamon, sorry. Jesse didn't provide any answers tonight. There was a moment right at the end of that press conference when he said, we are going to commit to, and then he thought about it. He thought about it for a long time. It was a long, awkward pause.
After my
he said, we're going to commit to coming back as a group. That's not a strong commitment. He needed to commit to making changes, to bringing in new players, spending money.
He also said this is not who we are. When we have a resume that tells us that this is actually who they are.
Exactly, Joel. I think what they needed to do was they needed to make stronger commitments. In that press conference, Jesse needed to make stronger commitments to turn the fortunes of this team around. But he didn't want to. He didn't want to make any commitments tonight, and that is disappointing to me.
I don't have any evidence, but I want to believe that Jesse didn't have an alternative tonight. He had to face the press. He had to face his fans no matter what. There was no alternative. Matias wasn't going to get lambasted by the press again. He wasn't up for that. And who knows what the actual situation with Matias Almeida is. Now, I do want to say this. In my personal opinion, and for the time that I've been covering the team, this has to be the most unstable I've seen the San Jose Earthquakes. And as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, if you guys were paying attention, Almeida managed to go lower than Mikel Stari's lows. That says a lot. The 2018 San Jose Earthquakes team only won four times in a 32-game season. And somehow, some way, this feels worse. I don't know how long this project is going to take. I don't know how long this project is. I don't know if we're going to see all 4 years of it, because what we saw tonight after a 7-1 drilling in Seattle not too long ago calls for a lots to heads to roll. It really does. It has to. At any other club, anywhere else, changes would have been made weeks ago, months ago. This is unbelievable, to be honest with you guys. This is unbelievable. I don't think that many other journalists have the privilege of covering a team that just happens to surpass unimaginable lows time and time again. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's on repeat.
And I think,
Go ahead, Alex.
well, I think, Joel, there's a chance that some of those changes might be happening tonight. There's certainly lots of ways you can spin this, lots of speculation. And one of those is that Matias Almeida might have quit tonight. And that might be one of the reasons that he's not speaking to us. We just don't know. Jesse Fioranelli said that he had a huge headache, and that's why he wasn't speaking to us. But Matias Almeida looked animated on the touchline. So that to me, that explanation doesn't hold water. And we're going to try to get to the bottom of it.
There's a lot of things that happen within a locker room that the public doesn't know about. You know, the saying goes, whatever happens in the locker room stays in the locker room. But yeah, you're right, Alex. There's going to be a ton of speculation about whether or not Matias is going to remain as a head coach of the San Jose Earthquakes. What we do know is that the San Jose Earthquakes are a burning dumpster fire, and they are traveling at a decent pace downhill.
But Joel, remember what we heard after the 7-1 loss to Seattle. Basically, it was all our fault because we didn't understand the project, right? Now, we said that we would listen. We said that, and we were invited to practices, which we can't do. But we even reached out to the club and said, hey, can we have some sort of session with Matthias where he could explain to us what his vision is and what is going on? This is something that still needs to happen. It needs to not just happen with the media. It needs to be able to be transparent to the fan base. Where is this project going? Maybe tonight is not the night.
Million
Maybe
dollar
tonight is
question,
not the
Damon.
night. Yeah. And maybe tonight's not the night to ask that particular question, and to expect Jesse Fioranelli, on the spot to be able to answer that type of question. But it needs to be answered soon, whether it's by Matthias or by Jesse. Those answers need to come. This fan base deserves it. Look at all the people who are joining us tonight because they care about this team. Our fans are amazing, and they deserve better. And this club needs to give to the fans as much as the fans give to them, in my opinion.
Jamon, can I riff off that $1 million question that you noted there? What's in it for Matias Almeida at this point? Seriously, what's in it? The check? He doesn't care about money. He's made enough money over his playing career and over his managerial career. Why does he need to remain at Earthquakes Way? He's not going to get the financial backing that he needs to win. He's not going to get the commitment from some of these players ever again after that loss and after the loss that happened less than 2 weeks ago. What's in it? When he can hop on a plane, go back to Argentina, and go back to his tractor, as he's mentioned before, go back to his farm. And then in a couple of years down the road, or in a couple of months, or in a couple of weeks, because he is Matias Almeida at the end of the day, get a job somewhere in Liga MX with a top club.
Look, I
The
think
stars never aligned from the get-go here. Matias was never supposed to be the coach of the San Jose Earthquakes. It just they're not compatible. They really just aren't. I mean, we have to think about it. Matias Almeida has flourished as a manager because he's had boards and owners who have been willing to invest in his teams and have been willing to recruit in a proper way. And that's why he's managed to lift trophies and trophies and trophies. But that's just not going to happen here. So I ask you guys, what's in it for him? Why should he stay?
Joel Almeida is a coach who has a lot of pride. He invests in this team. He invests emotionally in this team. You can see it on the field when they lose. He is there with this team. I think his heart has been with this team. So that's why I don't think he wants to abandon ship. I don't think he wants to admit failure. I think that he is a proud coach and that he wants to see this right. But the question is whether he can, and it certainly doesn't look like that right now.
And just to clarify, I'm reading some of the messages here. I'm in Matias' corner. I'm in Matias' corner. I admire him as a coach. Not too long ago, he was North America's best coach. He can coach at a top level. He can make teams winning teams. He can lift championships. That's not a problem. He just has to have the proper backing, and he's not going to have that here in San Jose unless John Fisher and other people at the top either have some sort of epiphany or they jump off the boat. It's that simple. Period.
Joel, you always mention the caliber of Matias Almeida, and we always talk about it to these fans. And he always talks about that it is a 4-year project, and this is year 2 of what is now somewhat of a failing project here. And I said it at the end of the last show. It's time to back Almeida. It's time to back his work. We've seen good stretches of his work. Yes, his system, and we have to get so obsessed about systems in this country, always about the system. Yeah, sure, his system does wear out some players. So give him some depth. Give him a key playmaker in the number 10 role. Give him someone who's going to come in and score some goals when Chris Wondolowski retires. Give him some ball-playing center backs. Give him some other central midfield players that can control the game, that can move from side to side. But the fact of the matter is they have gotten some of these buys wrong. They have. They certainly have. And some of these buys have not come to fruition for this side. And so, for me, I don't doubt Almeida. Almeida has shown the caliber of his work in his managerial career. I think he's adapted to MLS. He showed he can be successful in MLS. The fact of the matter is they got to back him now. They have to back him from going from the end of year 2 into year 3. Matias Almeida historically as well has turned over teams at Banfield and at River Plate. He has turned over staffs, big numbers of staffs, not just 3 or 4 players here or there, 5 or 6, but big numbers, 8 to 10 players here and there. So it wouldn't surprise me in the offseason if we did see a huge number of players be overturned and a new crop of players in here. And that's why you're seeing all of these changes in the lineups. That's why you're seeing all of these different kinds of lineups. I think they're trying to see who they'd like and who they'd not like to have for next year. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Let's go ahead and kind of come to our final thoughts of the evening. And for everybody that's tuning in, thank you. We appreciate you. We hear you. We are listening to you. And we see all the comments come in. We are a balanced show with all sorts of different perspectives. We pride ourselves on that. Obviously, the results for the Quakes have not gone so great. And that's why we have to give our opinion on how we feel. And we are giving a legitimate opinion on how we feel about this team. I grew up with this team, and I worked for this team. So obviously, in my interest, I'd like to see them do well. But I also have to give my opinion, and so that's kind of where we stand here as a team and as a show. We do have to just provide the press conference and then provide our opinions to you in the best way possible. So I'll start here with Jamon Moore down the sideline from me with your final thoughts tonight.
We're at a crossroads. It's one of 2 answers right now. Either Matias Almeida is part of the solution and you have to give him the players that's going to allow him to be successful and to be able to turn this around. And that starts this season, getting a couple players now who can start to integrate into the squad so they hit the ground running next season. Or you have to believe that Almeida is part of the problem. And that means that he's going to need to go, whether he falls on his sword, whether he's bought out, whatever would need to happen, he would need to depart the club, and you would need to bring somebody else into the club to take it for the rest of the season and identify a permanent head coach for next year. Right now, I feel like the fans, and I can feel even myself being pulled in both of those directions. I'm not sure if I want to give Matias Almeida an offseason if it's going to bring in more of the types of players that he's been bringing in. We need to see a different type of player. We need to see a younger, more athletic, stronger, bigger, yes, Alex type player who's going to be able to compete in a very physical and athletic MLS. Okay? For all the things that you can say about this league compared to the other leagues of the world, that's what this league is and represents. And what I saw on the field today is the antithesis of that. So you either need to fix that for him, or you need to decide that the system is not going to work in MLS because of the type of league it is. It's time to cut bait and move on.
Alex Morgan, your thoughts on tonight and Jesse Fioranelli addressing the media. No players available either. Matias Almeida had a headache tonight, seeing everybody tuning into our broadcast and giving their opinions this evening. And the Quakes lose again, 6-1.
Charles, before we wrap, I want to mention 2 positives from tonight. One was Marcos Lopez. He looked really solid on the left. He hit a great cross for Carlos Fierro for San Jose's goal. And he was trying a lot of things. Jamon and I were talking during the game. We were giving him credit because he is playing progressive passes. He is trying things. He's trying to improve this Quakes offensive line and create sparks going forward. And I think of this phase of MLS games, he's absolutely the standout positive for the Quakes. He has won that spot at left back. And that also means that Nick Lima can now start at right back. And that, I think, improves the Quakes' entire back line. Nick Lima didn't really have a strong connection with Carlos Fierro tonight. They looked a little bit out of sync. But Fierro obviously also scored his first MLS goal. So that's a positive as well. But then this post-match press conference was, again, incredibly baffling. We've had, I think, in this week, we've had two of the most eventful press conferences I've ever attended in my time covering this team. Tonight, Matias Almeida had a serious headache and wasn't able to attend. It was Jesse Fioranelli we spoke to. And, we have to wonder, we're going to try to get to the bottom of it, if that signals that there are, if it indicates that there are rumblings in this locker room. We weren't able to speak to any players either. So who knows what that means. Matias Almeida took an hour and a half to talk to us after their 7-1 defeat against Seattle, but he did eventually come out and speak to us. He did not tonight. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of that, figure out what that means for this team going forward, and if that could mean changes in this team.
Joel Soria, your final thoughts on the evening after the Quakes wrap up their home match here against Portland and losing 6-1.
One has to believe that if there are going to be any changes under the Almeida era, it starts tomorrow morning, as Jesse mentioned. Why do I say that? Because Jesse addressed the media, and because Jesse spoke to fans who have been calling for him to speak up for months now. And, I think that the Quakes obviously are still in that position to make their way up and potentially make playoffs at the end of the year. Obviously, I wouldn't bank on them making playoffs, but the possibility is definitely there. You have to believe that things are going to change, if they're ever going to change, after tonight. It's now or never, really. Something has to give. We've been saying this for some time now, but I feel like today everything just really culminated and the bomb finally just went off. We're not entirely sure what the future of this team is going to look like, given that Matias didn't speak to the press, and to me that's a little bit mysterious. It's not a routine thing in the soccer world. But we'll have to see if it's ever going to change. It's going to have to change very, very soon.
Yeah, you're right, Joel. I agree with you. It's going to have to change very, very soon. I've been following this team since they came back from the hiatus and happened to work for this team for a couple of years from 2008 to 2011. And, I'll just be fair. I haven't seen it like this. I haven't seen it this bad. And it seems like it's on cyclical repeat from 2018 from Mikel Stare. And I did see some comments earlier about how people wanted Stare back, or Stare was the scapegoat. And they really need to get this right here. They really do. And I can see everyone in the comments, and I can understand the hurt of the fan base, because this is a team that I grew up watching and saw lift 2 MLS Cup trophies before they went on hiatus. And so this is a sad day, but I just want to tell everybody to have faith. And there is only one way up from here with this team. And never lose faith. I saw some comments in here earlier saying that I love this team. I hate this result, but damn, I love this team. We do this show because we want to cover this team, and we take interest in soccer in the Bay Area. Otherwise, we would not be here. And so that's important for everybody to know, and for everybody to note as well. So we'll see what happens further down the road here, whether Jesse Fioranelli's comments come to fruition as well. The Quakes take on the Colorado Rapids in midweek on Wednesday evening, a 6 o'clock Pacific kickoff time with you. We will be there to be able to provide coverage and analysis, and of course cover the press conferences for you. On a lighter note, we lost an American icon, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, last night. Supreme Court Justice who fought for so many things, was the dissenter, if you will, and she had such a long career in the law and on our Supreme Court. Just an absolute hero of of rights for all people. And she reminds me a lot of my grandma, actually. And in the spirit of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, just kind of wanted to send everybody out with that, especially with the fact that it is the new year, and for Jewish folks celebrating Shana Tova, and for everybody tuning in, keep your chins up, your head up, and thanks for tuning into Black and Azul. Make sure that you like and subscribe here on YouTube. We will be back with you. We very much appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning into our show, and we'll see you next time.